Welcome to Midtown Comics TV. This is the X-Men pre-Dark Phoenix Roundtable discussion free-for-all.
Pre-Phoenix? Pre-Dark Phoenix?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Speculation.
It's another X-Men movie.
It's more than another
It's
X-Men
the last
movie.
X-Men movie.
Thank God.
Yeah, okay.
Thank God.
It is the last Fox-made X-Men movie.
Yeah. Technically, there's one more.
Technically, they're...
They're mutants.
Oh.
If
Yeah.
it ever gets
That's never
released.
coming out.
You mean straight to Hulu?
Nobody cares.
Straight to Hulu special?
Yeah. Once Disney goes, we kind of have control of Hulu right now. New Mutants, you'll be a special... I'll watch that on a Saturday night when I got nothing better to
New
do.
Mutants is going to be the bonus features on Dark Phoenix.
All right, so should we start off and just give our audience a little basic backstory on the actual Phoenix story, and then we can kind of move into... I mean, I think we can all piece some things together.
The X-Men go to space. All right, this entity comes, takes over Jean Grey during a space mission because the X-Men go to space. That's a thing.
They have their own space stuff going on.
They got their own space stuff.
Well, technically, they're in a spaceship. They encounter this force in space.
Sounds exactly like what I said.
And everyone is like,
Space.
we gotta escape.
X-Men.
Yeah.
Jean Grey is like, I got this, guys. I can pilot the ship to safety, no problem. And so she hangs on to the controls and takes the full force of this cosmic entity, and everyone else escapes, and her ship crashes into the ocean. So they all think she's dead, and they're like, oh my gosh, Jean's such a hero. She saved us all. And then she rises out of the water in her iconic green Phoenix outfit, and she's like, I'm not really Jean anymore. I'm Phoenix.
Because every cosmic force in comics comes with a costume.
Well,
Of course.
Yeah.
Already
Color
pre-built
changing.
in.
Yeah.
I mean, come
You
on.
can tell a lot. Much like animals in the wild.
She's
You
wearing,
can tell a lot by Jean's Phoenix.
She's
by
wearing
the
that
colors
mood
she's
costume.
wearing. Yeah. Green, you're good. Red
Red
not
light, green light.
not so
It's
good.
red light, green light.
And white, you're extra good, I guess.
Yeah, so
Super good.
anything that's in the book minus the space scene is not happening in this movie.
Well, yeah, the whole... I think we already handled the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
Earlier in the first new X-Men movie in X-Men First Class. So I doubt that they'll do any sort of Dark Phoenix with like them, which I actually... If I had known that they were going to get to Dark Phoenix eventually, I would have been like, hold off on the Hellfire Club, because
Yes.
that's my favorite part of that series.
Yes.
Right.
The space stuff is cool, and like the big space game with the Shi'ar is cool, and that whole whatever they do out there.
Right.
But man, I love that Hellfire Club element, and and like how they Wolverine's got to fight a bunch of those Hellions. I love that part.
It's fantastic. There is no writer for X-Men like Claremont.
No.
Right?
He is
Claremont, the
the
art by
X-Men guy.
Byrne.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenally gorgeous book. It's a well-written book. It actually, for as much going on in it, it's coherent.
Yeah.
It's real. It's
dense.
a definitive X-Men story.
Yeah.
It's the definitive
It's-
X-Men.
it's-
I
in
would
my
say the
opinion.
same
In
thing.
your
Yeah.
opinion.
I would say the same
yeah.
thing.
But it's not the first time Phoenix has been in a movie.
No. Unfortunately.
So 2006 saw X3,
The Last Stand.
The Last Stand.
And I saw that at
That
midnight.
was my last stand. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can stand behind X-Men after watching this movie.
So I think let's
So bad.
Let's backpedal a little bit, slightly. Do you have a favorite X-Men movie?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Definitively.
do you?
Yeah.
You're last then. All right. What's your favorite X-Men movie?
favorite X-Men movie of all time is probably somewhere between First Class and Days of Future Past. I think there's a couple of things at First Class that I thought it was missing, but I really enjoy that movie. I think James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender are awesome. And I think that extending into what happens in Days of Future Past I thought was really cool, and I think that those two movies have aged better than a lot of the other X-Men movies.
Agree 100% on that.
Yeah. Days of Future Past?
Days of Future
Days of
Past?
Future Past, because they took a classic story from the comics that they could not do word for word, beat for beat, and made it work in the universe that they had by merging these two movie universes that they had.
Right.
And I love that movie. That movie, to me, is honestly, aside from Batman vs. Superman, the greatest comic book movie I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Eat that, Richard. Look at him. He's eating it right now.
He's
He's eating it in his brain.
Now you know what our next podcast is going to be about. Roundtable, whatever this is.
That's it.
I'm just happy that none of the X-Men have parents named Martha.
Do we necessarily know that for
Yeah,
certain?
we don't.
Not in the
Might go
movie.
to Jean Grey's house in this, and she's like,
What was
my
Wolverine?
mother's name?
Martha Gray!
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right.
He knows Martha
We got to
is
get away
somewhere.
from Mario right now.
Yeah, right.
Kristen, favorite X-Men movie?
I can't disagree with everybody here. It's First Class and Days of Future Past. They're both stellar movies.
Right.
They blew me away when I first saw them because after X3, which was so disappointing.
These are really
I'm going to
bad
go with
taste.
disappointing.
Yeah.
We also can't forget. We didn't have just X3. A few years later, there was the first Wolverine
don't
movie.
mention
Oh, we're not counting.
Which but like I didn't think X-Men could recover. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just
true.
like
That's
it's
true.
like you go over that climb and you're like, oh man, X2 is pretty good. Yeah! You know, it's like you're hitting like the bottom of Splash
It was
Mountain.
the Wile E.
So
Coyote
true.
there for
and
a
you're just
minute.
and you're just soaked with awfulness.
And I'm-
It's just
everywhere.
I'm sure we'll get to it later, but each one of those movies has its moments. But
Yeah, of course.
Wolverine is the very lowest point of all of it.
Yeah.
but it did give us Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool, so I'll take
the
that.
first
Well-
third of that movie is a perfect movie.
I'm
What?
gonna
First
say
third.
I'm gonna say first X-Men movie is my favorite.
Okay.
That was the one I saw, and I'm like, no way, you know, because it's still like close enough to the '90s cartoon, which is
Yeah.
everyone loves that.
Yeah.
Which did Phoenix perfectly.
Really well.
Did a lot of those storylines.
Did a lot of the
perfectly.
storylines were Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
They touched them all, and it was good.
They did good
And
stuff.
then you get
Yeah.
to the first X-Men, and I'm like, nah, you know. And then you see it like, okay, it wasn't bad. It
No.
was a safe X-Men movie, and then the minute it hit the second one, they're like, screw it.
Do you know what's interesting though is that it's the first, right? It was like in that Spider-Man
It's
era.
one of the
Free
first.
Spider-Man.
Technically, the first is Blade.
Blade, 99.
Then X-Men, then Spider-Man.
Yeah,
because X-Men
so
was
it was
2000, yeah.
really
X-Men was the one
That
was
movie was
like-
great. I remember going to see that movie and just having that exact same reaction.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, they did it.
And we can trash some of those Fox made X-Men movies as much as we want, and I always sometimes when I like to joke around with it. We as fans of this medium, especially like the superhero film medium, owe that first film
Yes.
and those first X-Men films so very much because one, Kevin Feige was an associate
Yes.
producer on the first X-Men or some sort of producer on the first X-Men.
Right.
And it proved that a superhero movie could work and it was
it attracted big name actors.
Yes.
Yeah.
It gave it
Yeah.
legitimacy.
Absolutely.
Like before that, I mean, had Patrick Stewart and
Ian McKellen.
Ian McKellen.
Ian
Halle
McKellen.
Berry was a huge
Halle
get
Berry.
at that
She
point.
was getting big.
One line.
yeah, right.
And it made stars out of Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
it gave a lot of those guys. You know, Ray Park even was coming off of Star Wars,
Yeah.
so everybody was like, "Oh, he's going to jump around with stuff," and he did. He sucked.
He's going to speak his own voice.
Well, I mean,
And,
And nobody cared.
It sucked.
we know what happens to toads when they get hit by lightning.
Same thing that happens to everyone else.
there were some cheesy lines in there.
See,
I blame David Hayter
all
for
of
that.
those, all
I
those
can-
movies from that era
I
have
can
those
forgive
cheese.
that line. I can't forgive. I'm like the Statue of Liberty's gift shop does not look like that at all. You know,
Look.
it's like Godzilla's Madison Square Garden. It don't look like that in the garden.
Oh, okay.
You know?
So you can get over the mutants, fly around,
if you're
control
gonna
metal,
if
but
you're gonna suspend my
but God
disbelief
forbid.
in a real world setting,
God
it's gotta
forbid.
look like it.
Let me tell you, that gift
Liberty
shop,
Island gift shop.
Let me tell you, if there was a movie and Midtown Comics was in the movie and they went in, everybody'd be like, doesn't look like that in there.
I'm
No.
waiting for the comic book movie that features us in Times Square. Every version of New York's Times Square in a movie misses us.
There's a,
It's crazy.
a
It's
Punisher issue.
Yes.
that
There's a lot
has
of
us,
comics
and
that
it's
do it.
perfect.
and there's the Ghostbusters cover that's up on the wall here
Yes.
in Midtown Corporate.
So
Midtown Comics Corporate?
Midtown Comics corporate.
Incorporated? Midtown Comics
Midtown
Corporate
Comics
Incorporated.
Corporate warehouse location.
Cohen Inc.
Buy the hats. Anyway,
So
Link in the description below.
all right. So back onto the movie. So now we're in the second time of doing Dark Phoenix. The first
Oh,
go
yeah.
around
Yeah. First go
didn't
around.
pan out.
All right, so let's talk about what we didn't like about.
So X3,
all of it.
great to bring up.
Start to finish.
It's a rough movie because it makes Jean Grey Phoenix pretty much in name only.
Yes.
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 You know, she
Doesn't go into any of that backstory or anything.
There's
She's
no
just a
fire.
psycho.
There's no costume.
There's no space.
There's no space. She's just kind of like more like a possessed demon. Like she belongs in like an exorcism movie.
And not even. It almost appeared in that movie like Magneto had brainwashed her in some way.
Yeah,
like it
definitely.
wasn't.
Right. Like it wasn't described as its own entity. It's
Yeah,
just
more
like,
like
I
mind
have
control.
headaches, now I'm a supervillain.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like
So-
it's got like kind of that whole like, hey, it's like her limiter, like her power limiter. Like if anything in any of the mutants, there's like
Right.
a limiter to their power. Like it kind of like broke.
Right.
And it's just like, all right, Jean Grey, and I understand why they would do that at that point in time in 2006.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, we don't have a giant, massive cinematic universe yet. We're going to bring the X-Men to space. Like, where does this fit
Right.
in context to what they've already done?
Mm-hmm.
And instead, we're going to, it makes more sense to be like, you know what? Maybe she just completely loses control of her powers. It's not the best plot element. I'd rather her get possessed by a giant space entity, but I can see why you would do that given the tools and the stories that were created just recently before it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's great, but I think you're working with what you have.
Here's my problem: is like even in the new one, they're not doing space missions, and then even Quicksilver in the trailer is like, "Oh, we're doing space missions
Yeah,
now."
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
even they're like, "Screw it! If we just make a joke about, it, we
Yeah,
can do
it's
it."
fine.
you
Yeah.
know?
And and that's I think that's the effect of Marvel. I think that's the
Yeah,
effect of
definitely.
the MCU on
Yeah.
superhero movies in general, because I think it's just like, oh wait, we can do ridiculous stuff and people won't have a problem with it. That's why Deadpool looks the way he looks in
Yeah.
the movies now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because the Marvel movies were like, yeah, we can give you Iron Man. So it's like, why not give us Deadpool? It
Right.
works. People
Exactly.
like it. So I think with that you can just make a offhanded joke. And Quicksilver's the guy to do it.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
his
Totally.
that Quicksilver's
Quicksilver's-
better than the MCU one.
Yeah, he's hands down
Yeah.
probably the best character in my mind
The
of
best
the new,
of the
of
new,
the
of the new
movies.
class. Yeah, definitely, absolutely.
It's hard for me to. I like that Magneto.
I
I mean,
no,
Michael
Michael
well,
Fassbender as Magneto is so good.
Magneto's
He's
on a
amazing
different
as
plane of
Magneto.
amazing.
Yeah.
As far as the kids go,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, on top of that, like a lot of these characters now, if we watch the First Class and Days of Future Past and Apocalypse and now this,
Yeah.
these guys for 30 years, aging phenomenally well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look good.
They look good.
They've aged about 5 to 6 years over the course of 25 movie years. You figure out that mutant power because I want it.
I want that too.
What are you talking about? You do have it.
I'm
Mike's
so-
60.
I am. I'm retiring in a couple of years.
Let's look at a couple of comparisons real quick. So Jean Grey in X3, red trench coat, face would turn kind
Seen
of
that recently.
kind of cindery,
Somewhere.
kind of, get like the
Also
veins and
familiar.
everything. She's destroying a suburban block. Conveniently enough, Professor X put psychic blocks on her to protect her from her own power. Kind of sounds like they're doing all that again.
So are they recycling ideas, just doing the same thing over because they don't know how to make a good movie, and Days of Future Past was a complete fluke, which I feel, or they're just going to repeat some of the same beats so people can think that we're going to get the same trashy movie, but then
Right.
they're going to surprise us with an actually good film,
Possibly.
which I
Well,
think they've
it's,
forced into.
What is it? The writer or the director is the
The
same
former
one.
producer is now the director.
Yeah. So
Now-
the producer of X3 is now the director
producer of-
Dark Phoenix.
Oh, so
Almost
that's a-
every X-Men movie.
Oh,
Almost
okay.
all of them, including, I believe, and you can tell me I'm wrong in the comments below.
I will.
I believe all of them, including X-Men Origins and X3.
Well, he promised that this movie was not going to be X3.
Which is
It's
fine.
not going to follow the same plot. It's not going to be that origin story. That he's not doing it. He learned his lesson.
Yeah, I
Hopefully.
definitely understand that. I definitely understand that, and I'll accept the similarities to say, okay, that's just their movie making. Their idea, and again, in this universe, their idea of these costumes are black leather jumpsuits, right?
Right.
So maybe their idea of a redhead gone crazy is a red trench coat.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If they said they're not going to do what they did in X3, it's like, yes, they show you the space mission in the beginning just to be like, see, it's different.
Look.
Well, the trailers
Look
have
here.
gotten better.
Yes.
As we've
Agree.
gone
I'll agree.
on.
I'll agree to
The
that.
first trailer was like, oh God, no, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the second and third trailer, you're like, oh wow, okay, Nightcrawler looks cool. They're doing some cool, like, Pride of the X-Men. Nightcrawler has to, teleport through space. If anyone's watched Pride of the X-Men, Wolverine has an Australian accent. It's great. They based a video game on it. You can play it at pretty much any barcade in the country. They do that type of stuff. And then, I kind of like the feel. And, I like these characters. I like the new Beast. I like Magneto. I like Professor X quite a bit. I think the costumes are finally starting to get to a point where the costumes look like the X-Men.
Yeah.
It's casted well.
It's cast well.
Yeah.
I like Sophie Turner. I think she's a good pick for Jean Grey. At first I was like, I don't know. And then someone did like a fan creation of it, and they put her in like the Marvel Girl face thing, and I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's
I like
cool.
that. And I thought she was good in Apocalypse, though Apocalypse on its own was not a great movie.
It's a shame she won't be wearing the Marvel Girl outfit in
It's
this.
a shame. It's a shame none of them were wearing the outfits that they showed us at the end of Apocalypse. What, you made those for 5 seconds to say, hey, look, they look just like you. You wanted them to. We're never going to show you those again.
Yeah.
Although I will say the best part of Apocalypse, like the saving grace of that movie, is the end when Jean walks off the second floor ruins just onto thin air, and
she's
you're just like,
yeah.
what?
Let's be fair. The saving grace of that movie is the Quicksilver stopping the mansion blowing.
The Quicksilver scene
Is it?
and the Wolverine
That went
cameo.
off.
Gots to be kidding us.
I totally turned off.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have the time to stop recording and fix everything, so I'm just going to
So you get to look at a no signal.
You get to look at that, and I'll put something above us in post. Fix it in post, Mario.
Fix it in post.
I want to ask Kristen real quick.
Yeah.
Kristen, arguably here, biggest Phoenix fan at the table.
She's my favorite character in all of comic books.
This print behind us right now actually is hers.
It is.
It's Archer Mart, who is fantastic.
Signed by Archer.
That's very cool.
What is your hopes for the movie? What do you want out of this? And what things from X3 would you not want to see come back in this movie? It's a loaded question.
Yeah, it's a complicated question.
But tell us your hopes and dreams for your favorite character.
Well, I think the thing that I love most about that character is this idea that sometimes you lose control. That sometimes there are parts of you that you genuinely don't have control over. And I think that's very relatable. I mean, sometimes for people it's depression or anxiety. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's rage. But we kind of all experience, being helpless to a part of ourselves. And that's what I love most about her. And I think that X3 didn't hone in on that at all. She was sort of like a passive character, and really her struggle is reflected through Cyclops and Wolverine, and even Professor X, sort of their reactions to her being evil. You don't really understand where she's at or her conflict, or so I would. That's my big thing. That's my big thing about her, and I'd like to see that. And also, the cool thing about that character is that, she starts off with this power, she loses control of it, she eventually comes back. You see this cosmic entity and her combine, and you see different, for lack of a better word, different flavors of it. So at first, she has some semblance of control over this thing, then she has no control, and it runs the show. And then eventually she comes to a point where they sort of make peace with each other. So watching that transformation of somebody, overcoming something inside of them, and, to find some sort of peaceful, and like I said, follow the colors of the outfit.
See, here's my thing.
That.
She's going to start this movie already off the deep end. It looks like it's this thing hits her, and 10 minutes into that movie, she's going to be like, all right, I'm certifiably crazy now. I'm going to be throwing trains at people and stuff.
Throw all those trains.
No, it's she'll struggle with it the entire film.
The entire film.
And the third act will just be her nutso and going crazy. But, I mean, I don't trust them to give us that proper back and forth between it and her.
Well,
I don't know.
the girl with the white hair,
Yeah, because
is
that's
she,
what I mean.
Is she actually, or is she the Phoenix Force?
is she
Right.
the
The
Phoenix?
Right.
That's what I'm saying, where you could kind of have this internal dialogue.
It's possible. I mean, I really like the way they did it in Venom. I know not a lot of people like
love
that
that.
movie, but I love that. I
Yeah.
love that aspect of that film. That was my favorite part because
The duality
Venom's
is
a
great
character.
there.
Venom
Yeah.
is a character inside this person, just like a cosmic entity inside a person. You know,
Right.
is that driving force in their head? They just don't realize.
Even the
it.
Hulk and Bruce Banner,
Exactly.
they give the Hulk an identity now
Yeah.
too.
Do you think we'll see her do the iconic pose? You know, will we see
I think
an iconic?
yes, but certain
Jean
things
Grey,
like
right?
things like that we're only going to get because of what happened to Fox while making this movie.
Yeah.
I
You
have
think so?
Yes.
That they're just going to throw
Yes.
the kitchen sink in there?
Yes,
They're like,
100%.
you have nothing left.
They have nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose.
Is
So
Cyclops going to go down on one knee and shoot his face into the sky and go,
Oh,
"Jean!" Because if
Definitely.
we don't get that, I'll be very upset.
So I have two questions for each of you. One, and we'll start with you, Mike.
All right.
Are we killing Jean Grey in this movie? And if this bombs, if this movie doesn't do well, once it goes over to Disney and the MCU, are we ever going to touch Phoenix again?
A couple things to answer here. You hit me with some pretty good questions, so I'll hit you back with some answers.
Nice.
Nice. So I roll. Do I think Jean is dying in this movie? It's the last X-Men movie. I think Jean Grey's death, in general, is kind of like a symbolism of the end of different eras of the X-Men story. And I think that is across the board. Every time Jean dies, we see a transition of what the X-Men are about. And I think that
Because she's the heart.
she
of
is
the original
she's like the heart of the X-Men.
She's so cool.
For lack of any more poetic terms for myself here, she is the heart and soul of that team. And I think that we're at a transition right now, and I think that the best thing to do story-wise is to probably kill the character and leave the X-Men kind of in a spot where it's like, okay, that's it. And then as they transition to Disney, I think that Disney is going to use different characters. I think they're going to tell different stories with the X-Men because they don't want to give us something we've seen 3 times already. So they don't want to do it again. Kind of like what they did with Spider-Man Homecoming, where we're not going to do the origin again. The X-Men are going to be a different thing, and we're going to probably handle them a different way. And I don't think they'll touch Phoenix, if not for a very long time. And if
What
they
if-
do,
What if they don't defeat her at the end of this movie, and then the beginning of the next, of the Disney saga, you have like Green Phoenix or White Phoenix. You
I'd
know
be
what
okay
I mean?
with
like
that.
As her sort of already transitioned
I would-
past that.
I would be
like a
more-
fast forward.
No
I
way
would
from
be
that
more-
cast is making it to Disney.
well, Disney has said the only X-Men actor they are keeping is Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. That has been the official statement.
And
but
if
that
Hugh
does-
Jackman comes back,
I think Hugh Jackman is done. I think we're done.
Huge jacked man will be back.
Hugh Jackman will be back for more
One more
action.
musical bomb. That's all he needs. One
Who am
really
I?
bad one.
X-Men the musical.
You could do it. You could do it.
You saying that's
Hugh
the only thing that'll
Jackman
bring him back?
sings?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Hugh Jackman sings. Patrick Stewart sings. Ian McKellen probably
That's really
sings.
true.
You could do it. You could make X-Men the musical. It could happen.
Dark Phoenix sing along.
Claws.
Got claws and claws.
All right,
And
so
I don't
you're
remember
saying
my
I'm saying that
Jean's dying.
I think I would if I wrote the movie. If you ask me my opinion on what I think should happen, maybe not exactly what will happen because we saw how I was wrong about Captain America surviving. I think the best option is to kill Jean to represent a definite end of this X-Men saga. And I think that these characters might not be touched for quite some time, and I do not think Disney will handle the Phoenix Force. I think that
But will Disney use Jean Grey and
I-
Cyclops and all
I
them again?
don't know. I think they'll use Wolverine and Deadpool before anything else.
Yeah.
And I think they want to bring in new characters.
See, I feel opposite. I feel like Disney. No, I was going to say DC. Disney is going to use the original team. Your Jean Grey, Beast, Cyclops, Angel.
I would love it.
I mean, go
I don't
the
know.
original. But
I think it's more likely that they'll go like, X-Force.
Or giant size X-Men.
Or giant size, right?
Giant
like
size X-Men
some-
would be the way
I
to
think
go.
if they
Other
call their
team
first movie
that-
Giant Size X-Men, I think that would be so
But
cool.
you look
Yes.
at like Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah.
That's a very '60s Spider-Man.
Of course.
Oh yeah, no,
That's the point, yeah.
that's
That
definitely
is Steve
classic
Ditko,
Spider-Man.
Ramita
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mario, I'm going to move it to you. Jean Grey, dying or not? What's
I say dying, but I think that what I would love to see is if they have to fight her early on and they kill her, and then she comes back. And then she's
Like a
even
phoenix?
worse. Yes.
That would be
Like a
so
Thanos
Rising
from a certain
the
other movie?
ashes. Well, I actually hope everybody dies. I think the best way to end this and say goodbye is just wipe out that whole team.
Wow.
And leave Charles and Eric there alone again.
Just playing chess.
Just figuring it out. Like,
You know
all
this
right,
plastic
They downgrade
doesn't
the
hold
checkers.
forever.
obviously, yeah, they downgrade the checkers because like no. This is a man's game. Yes, I definitely think she'll die. It has to symbolize the end of a franchise.
Right.
They can't necessarily leave it open to the point where, oh, we're going to see what else happens. No, of course they also aren't just going to end it abruptly and kill everybody, as much as I would like to see that. But
Right.
it's they have to leave it not open, but we all know it's closing.
Maybe Disney reshot the movie and had them get snapped out.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Oh, look,
be
all the
great.
X-Men.
You know
And
what
then they just never got
my,
snapped back.
My favorite part about this iteration of Jean Grey is, unlike every other iteration, including the comic books, she stands on her own. Her
Yeah.
storyline isn't really about her romance or her relationship with any other characters.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
good.
Charles, you know what I mean? It's more about her, like mentory relationship with him. But they really sort of focus Jean's story in these new movies as her personal struggle with
Yeah,
herself,
yeah.
like not her relationship.
Well, in the book,
with Scott.
Cyclops plays a big part of it. Like the romance
Yeah.
between her and him is
Right.
because
And-
the Hellfire Club stuff and the whole mind manipulation.
She gets trapped in a mind manipulation, and the
Right.
only thing that brings her out of it is Scott being around. Like, it's really sort of pushed in the comics that their relationship, is a big part of her character, where I feel like it's not as prevalent here. I mean, it's there, but
Right.
it's not.
Well, I think what you see in the X-Men movies is the evolution of superhero movies from the 90s to the present day, where superhero movies got better and got more realistically written and
connected and
connected,
everything.
and you try to do things. And again, with Days of Future Past, you see that not only these two worlds of X-Men colliding, but those two worlds of movie making colliding, where Wolverine's the only one that can kind of seamlessly go through everything
Right.
in terms of movie worlds because he's the better actor.
I mean,
and-
is
yeah.
it possible the X-Men movies are the most comic accurate movies because they don't make sense?
Yes.
And
Yes.
then you read the X-Men books and you're just like, I don't get it. And then you'll come back a few months later and you're like, I get it. And then you're like, I don't get it again.
I just it's so much text.
It's so much.
It
So
is.
much text.
When I first got into X-Men, the first thing I actually read was Age of Apocalypse.
Right.
And I didn't know what the heck was going on because I watched the cartoon and I'm like, why does everybody look different?
You couldn't miss that cartoon
Yeah.
for a week.
No, not at all.
You were deep in the weeds.
Kids don't understand that these days. We got one X-Men episode a week, and that was
Yeah.
it.
And there's no way to replay
morning.
it.
No.
There was no way to replay it unless
You'd
you
have to-
recorded it like my crazy
you have
self.
to, you have to tape them.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to tape them.
What's a VCR, guys?
You
You
don't
couldn't even
know.
You don't
set it up
know.
in advance to record. You had to
Yeah.
be there
You
to
had to
press
be
the
there.
record
Or you had to have like a
button.
family member, because I was always out on like Saturday mornings at
yeah.
some sort of like.
No, I never missed that.
Definitely
Yeah.
not.
Never missed
No.
that.
That's
but then,
why I
but
didn't
then
play
again,
sports
you were a
or
grown
have,
man
you know.
with children at that point.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I had 3 kids in 1992.
You had to work Saturday
Exactly.
mornings.
I had to
People
work a
watching
lot,
cartoons.
bringing up that extra money because I was 30.
Mike actually gets a Liberty Mutual check every
That's
week.
right, I do, and I get that AARP mailer every
discounts.
month. Yeah, I go to the movie theater and I say, hey, I'm a senior citizen discount.
That's why I ask them out to lunch all the time so I can
Yes.
get those
So,
senior discounts.
Kristen,
75%
I know-
on everything.
I know you vaguely answered here and there. Is Jean Grey dying in this movie?
I would like to see them. I think that's the easy way out. The other movies that have come out, the newer X-Men movies, have not taken the easy route. They've sort of been very clever about giving us complicated, surprising endings. So I hope they do the same thing. I hope they find. I mean, I can't think of any other solution other than maybe she leaves or goes into space. Maybe she's like, if I stay, I'm going to kill everyone. Or
Can't help myself. I'm just gonna
joins
do
a
it.
bunch of aliens, who are like, hey, we can help you. I'd like to see something like that. I think it would be kind of a cop out to see her die. Even though it's because Jean always dies.
Yeah, it's
Jean
kind of the
dies
thing.
a lot.
It's kind of the
So,
thing.
so technically,
So-
then the opposite of what we all think is going to happen would be the happy ending, where
I-
nobody
I-
dies and the school
I
just
don't-
lives on.
I don't want the happy ending. I would like something much more complicated.
Earth just
Or maybe
swallow
we
it.
see her come back as good Phoenix at the end. you know?
That's kind of what I want. I want her not to die. I kind of want to just see her at the end. Everything gets resolved. She shows up, green costume. you know, everybody's like, oh my God, Jean's good now and stuff like that, you know, because otherwise it's like, yeah, I kill Cyclops again.
Yeah.
We got to chill. Here's the final question before we sign off, whatever camera. Is Cyclops going to be tolerable in this movie?
I hate that
Quick
kid.
one-word
As an
answer.
actor.
As a character, as the people who play this character, does he have a chance in Phoenix Fiery Hell of being good? Mike?
No.
That's a no. Mario?
No, I have no faith in Miles Teller as an actor.
Scott Summers is one of the, I don't want to say lamest characters. He's the lamest character. Everybody disagrees. Unpopular opinion.
Okay, so here's what
He's
we...
lame.
All right, so before we head out of here, we're all going to just say... Cyclops die in this movie. We'll be stoked.
Please.
All right. Phoenix live, and you know, Kristen will be happy, and then we'll all be happy.
I prefer everybody dying, but I'll take everybody living.
I will take everybody being dusted by Thanos again. All over again.
I just want the Happy Meal toys.
I agree with him.
Are they doing more hideous bobbleheads?
I have no idea. I don't even know if they're Happy Meal toys. I just want them.
Then I didn't mean to badmouth those Avengers ones at McDonald's. I love eating them.
All right. Well, the movie comes out June 7th, so make sure you check out X-Men Dark Phoenix. And if you want to catch up on all the cool comics that the movie might be based on,
It's not going to be based
we don't
on.
know.
Tiny, teeny bit.
Of course, you can get those at midtowncomics.com
Link
or
in
in
the
any one of our
description
stores. Yes, in the description below.
Same thing with our hat. Same thing
Yes.
with all the X-Men stuff. Yes, get
Yes, X-Cone give it to you.
this movie's not going to
Thanks,
be
gonna
any.
give it to you. Remember to end it there.